So yes, so this is asset management. Asset management is a new feature, that's a new module that's in Dynamics. It used to be a third-party tool. What's that? Dynamite, yes. Yeah, and Microsoft bought the IP about a year and a half or so ago and integrated it in. And so basically today, you've seen all these slides already.
Yeah,
there we go. All right, so as far as SCM is concerned, or EAM is concerned in the supply chain, which is the section that it's in, the goal behind it was not only to integrate supply chain management and asset management into one, but also the finance modules as well. So you've got the capability of doing item inventory management, item ordering, service ordering, all of those sorts of funky things that need to go with particular maintenance plans, and integrate them into one single system. Right? So in previous versions, as an example, let's say you had Maximo, you'd have to do all your stuff in Maximo, and then you'd have to manually hard code all your bills and your invoices and stuff into EAM, or into D365, and then you would go through the process of paying the bills and the rest of it. Now we have the capability of tracking all that information in one single system against a single work order that can be used across the entire infrastructure. So we have all of the asset management components which are part of Dynamics 365, as well as there's also a Power Platform app that you can use as well. Of course, everything sits on Azure, but it goes through all of the stages of inventory and assets that you have. Now, there's no direct correlation between a fixed asset and an asset for maintenance. Okay? So it is possible, as an example, to have, as an example, a fixed asset is a building, right? So we have the hotel as the fixed asset. But within that, we also have a billion maintenance assets. So that's a maintenance asset, that's a maintenance asset, that's a maintenance asset, those are maintenance assets. Everything that has to have maintenance on them exists in the system in a separate asset management capability, but ultimately could be linked back to a primary fixed asset. So in this case, the heating system would go to the airport, or to the building, or to whatever it is that you're working with. And from here, you can link them to your fixed assets as part of your acquisition process, which includes all the financials. You manage all of them through functional locations and an asset register, so you know exactly where every particular asset is, right? And so this could be done either by physical locations, or it could be done by geotagging. So as an example, if you have an organization that has IoT devices running through an HVAC system, you can directly link it to this so that when the IoT device goes offline, or some sort of notification is sent, that you'll have the geotagged address of the physical location of where that asset is, and you'll be able to work with it as well. The other thing as part of this is the spare parts control, and that's the next slide that we're going to get into, and this is the part about the money-saving pieces. And I've got a couple of examples of some real-life projects that have used it. But then we also have the maintenance part, which includes all the breakdown maintenance, preventative maintenance, checklists, fault management, cost controls, and all those sorts of fun financial stuff. But they both have a tie-in to field services and to customer service through D365's customer engagement. So if you have those, you'll be able to get those items. Also, you have the capability of retiring assets, so you can do disposing of fixed assets, as well as electronic recording of that. And we also have the capability of using mixed reality now. So using the, if you've seen the dummies downstairs, or they do CPR. Yeah, same thing, same concept, right? So it was actually really funny yesterday watching people walk around going, it's like, what are you doing? I'm pushing buttons. But the point is that all of the different modules and components, the major modules of F&O, so financial supply chain management, are directly integrate with this. Field services, customer services, and mixed realities are also the pieces from the CE side of the world. And of course, everything sits on Azure, but also takes advantage of Power Platform, common data services, Power Platform, the Dataverse, the Power Apps, Automate, and Power BI. Okay, so what are some examples of how we can use this to save money? So I've been involved in 3 different projects in my life as a consultant, working with EAM. Now, one of them was EAM, not the built-in one, but ultimately the Dynaway one where it did get integrated in. The first one is International Airport. So as you can tell, I'm not from here, I'm from Canada. And I worked for an airport and did some project work for them. It took about 2 years to do. And really what we did is that we went around and we collected all of the assets in the building and put them in the system. And from there we track the costs of maintenance. So prior to bringing this system in place, they were about a 70-40, 70-30 reactive, proactive maintenance organization. Everything was a reactive process, right? And so at an airport you have not only the physical building, but you have the runways, you have all the equipment that's used to keep the runways clean, being in Canada where we get lots of snow removal equipment, brushes, all that sort of stuff. And so a lot of that stuff was done as required. Right? Oh, we need to change the oil in this truck, let's go do it now. Oh, we don't have any filters left, we ordered the filters, blah, 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 all that sort of stuff. There was no proactive maintenance for it. Once they implemented the maintenance system in, the first thing that you saw right off the bat was the cost control capabilities of the system. They weren't ordering things as required. They were ordering ahead of time because they had a maintenance plan that they knew we're going to do maintenance on these 10 vehicles and we need to have all of this stuff here for those days and so on and so forth. Because when a vehicle is unavailable, it costs money. And so they saved well over $2 million in inventory costs just by going from a 70% reactive to a 70% proactive group. And by doing that, they saved a whole pile of money on their budget. And airports don't actually make money, they're mostly a money loser. So, the more money that they can save, the better. The second example is one that I was just working on before I came to the UK, and that's a barbecue company in Canada who is currently using an old manufacturing system and are bringing F&O into place. And one of the pieces that they brought in was the EAM component for maintenance for all of the manufacturing equipment. And they went from an 80% reactive to an 80% proactive maintenance plan. So they actually stopped the capabilities of the system because what was happening was that a belt would break on a production line and they'd have to take it offline and they couldn't do anything until they got it, right? But they wouldn't know because they didn't do any maintenance checks or any of that sort of stuff on a regular basis to say, oh, the gear on that's going to break in 2 days, we better change it. And so everything was reactive, and of course that would then push production lines into stoppage. They wouldn't hit their quotas, all those sorts of things. And so that in and of itself cost them a lot of money, and they were doing everything in Excel. Right. Well, now they're taking it out of Excel. It's all in the same system, and they can track all of it and keep all that information in one place. The third one, and this one is actually the most interesting one, is a coal mining company in Canada that brought this into place. And if you've ever seen a video in Canada of something called the oil sands, they have these really, really, really big cat trucks called the 747s, massive dump trucks. They cost about $35 million each to buy one. And when you take one offline to do maintenance on it, it's about $200,000 a day-ish, something like that, when a truck is not being productive, right? And they have about 200 of these trucks on site. And so what was happening was that they would say, okay, well, we need to do maintenance on these 5 trucks, so we're going to take these 5 trucks and we'll take them into the shop on the Monday. But they may sit there all week, right? Instead of having the maintenance done, one truck after another, they may sit there all week doing nothing. And of course, they're losing money for every day that they're not actually being productive. And so what they did when they brought it in is they could pre-plan now using the planning mechanism that was built in there during preventative maintenance to say, okay, I'm going to take this truck out of the line on this day, and we're going to do the maintenance, because maintenance would take about 8 to 9 hours. And they had 24-hour shifts running at the mine all the time, so they could literally have all of these trucks in line, and they would just get rotated one out after another, without having to sit there, because they know that the tools they needed, the supplies they needed, the oil they needed, the grease they needed, all that sort of stuff was going to be there and waiting for them when that truck drove in the door, right? And they would also then be able to plan which users were going to be working on it, how much it was going to cost for that person to actually do all that stuff, and it saved them a lot of money. So on average, they save themselves $5 million per year on truck maintenance, just truck maintenance, nothing else, right? Just having the trucks come in and sitting. So that's a huge chunk of money for a mining company or any resources company. So it was just a way for you to save that money. Now this was a very brief and very short explanation of what it does and how it can save money. But the takeaway from this is that by integrating it into one system and not having to have data in disparate systems or not planned well, that you can actually save yourself a whole bunch of money from an organizational point of view. You'll have better results from the maintenance that you do. You'll have happier people that work there and potential customers, depending upon where you're doing it from. And ultimately, you'll be much more efficient. Questions?
Licensing. So it was free, but now there's some curious licensing around the number of assets. It's the first 100 assets or something, I think. Above that.
No, that's on the fixed asset side. It's not on the maintenance side. Yes.
Okay, so that's nothing to do with asset maintenance. That's on the fixed asset.
That's on the fixed asset side. And there is also the mobile app that you have, the SCM mobile app. Yeah. Will integrate directly into this as well. So, and the mobile app is free. So as long as you have a user license. But yeah, the first 100 assets thing, that's on fixed assets. That's not on the maintenance side. Although, by the time tomorrow comes around, who knows?
Well, yeah.
Right, so I have that argument. I have that argument, exactly. They might have its own name. I have that argument with them all the time. Because it's like, you make up your minds. That's a separate issue. So. But honestly, it's once it's in place and it's up and running, it's really slick. I mean, anybody that has a team member license, which is pretty much anybody that can access Dynamics, can put in maintenance requests. And there's a whole workflow process of how maintenance requests can be completed and approved and authorized and all that sort of fun stuff.
So one of our, I just shared this with everybody, one of our customers has asked me about the punch-out capability.
Okay.
Which I might mention when we talk about spares, which is where so that there are spares companies that allow you to log on to a portal. You go in, pick things from the basket, and sometimes they'll go through that portal to something like RS Components,
sure.
or other places that supply components. And F&O has little known, I think, CXML punch-out capability in that area, which means you can go in, create a purchase requisition, punch out, and take you to the supplier's portal, fill up your basket with the things that you need, punch back, and it returns all the data into the purchase requisition for you with the prices and everything. And then you just let the purchase requisition go on its route round the approval process, round.
There's a whole module. There's a whole module.
It is standard, but you need to be on 10.0.21.
Yeah, you need to be on
for it to work.
Minimum 21.
Yeah, because in the last 12 months, all the browser manufacturers have tightened up security on the browsers, and it broke the punch out.
Yeah.
Because I ended up logging a call, and they said, "Oh yeah, it's fixed in this version."
Yeah. And if you actually look at the spare part, there's a spare. What is it called? In North America, it's called it's called the asset loans, asset spares. I can't remember. They changed the different names. Anyways, but there's a whole section in the module where it's just related to spares, right? So you can set that link up and the connection. And then also, so like as an example, if you're a maintenance company and or your field services company and you have to go do maintenance for somebody, and you're going to give them a spare something while you take it back and fix it, that's the process that should follow to actually get the item in place and then go out and do the work and come back.
Yeah, they've got the C. It uses CXML as well if you want to do send purchase orders as well.
Yeah.
So having got the purchase requisition approved, you can also set it up to send the purchase order via CXML. And CXML is came from SAP originally.
Yes, so this is actually a carryover from the Microsoft SAP deal that they did on the web front end. Yeah. So this is one of the carryover, the legacy pieces of that negotiation, but they decided to cancel this year.
But if you think of the cost saving there, so somebody's going, entering all the details into their basket, right? Then they've got to come back, they've got to raise a requisition by keying it all in.
Yeah.
Then someone's got to approve it and everything else, and they've got to, you can send the purchase order across. Of course, if you can send the CXML purchase order across, then your supplier hasn't got a key.
Yeah, they already know it. And then,
So we've got a customer that's wanted to implement that, but they've had to wait for 1021 to come.
And you can also then integrate if you have an integration between on the API side for say the finance piece, when the supply chain piece, when there's actually like the ASEs and all the invoice format type, I'm trying to remember which one it is, but anyways, you can actually do direct invoices invoices as well. So the vendor can just send it to you, and you can just automatic three-way match, hook the door, goes.
Does the vendor software have to be? Are you connected to an API, or any standard vendor software could do that?
So some spares suppliers, RS Components is an easy one because I remember that one being on this customer port.
Yeah.
But RS have a punch out site, for example. But you can get there's a company I can mention them because they're a third party.
Sure.
IESA is a big one in the UK that supply spares, and they front effectively punch out sites for lots of other suppliers, so you can go just through them, and you just have an arrangement with them.
North America, there's a company that's like that as well, but they do it for like building components and stuff like that.
Right. Yeah.
Right. So you like hardware and wood and all that sort of fun stuff, but it's same idea.
Yeah. So if they have what they call punch out capability, I didn't know what punch out capability was until last 6 months.
Yeah.
And I was thinking, punch out. That sounds a bit like Fortran to me. And it's not. It's the ability to take a shopping basket from one site to another, effectively.
Yeah, and it's done through a version of HTML. Well, thank you very much.
Yes.
Thank you.
People are staying.